Coming to you all the way from the city of Miami in the sunshine state of Florida, bringing you the latest in the LGBTQ plus community, this is the FayWhat Show with your host, FayWhat!
Hello, buenas noches, mi gente, and welcome to the FayWhat Show, FayWhat! So, our show's mission is to entertain, educate, and unite our community with real-life topics in a safe, positive, and fun environment, because together we win and divided we fall! You know it. Ya tú lo sabes. So, our table topics are human topics, and they're conversations that need to be had, and we aren't afraid to have them. You know, no more being in the closet with our thoughts and what's important to us in the LGBTQ plus community, right? Right. All right, so let's get to it. So on today's show, you guys know, being queer in quarantine was no fun. Depression, thoughts, being away from our chosen family, all of that made life hard. But I honestly believe it was the hardest for LGBTQ plus youth. We're going to be talking to an incredible woman that is paving the way to making sure that mental illness is not a stigma anymore. And this week's fun segment, let's be honest, we girls got our own dictionary. We got our own slang. So our funny segment is going to be Lesbian Lingo. Yeah. Lesbian Lingo. Yeah. All right, let's begin. So, a new study has revealed that youth in the LGBTQ community faced more anxiety during the pandemic than other youth. The COVID-19 pandemic has had an impact on almost every child in the world. However, the impact seems to be dependent on a lot of factors, including, but not limited to, gender, race, socioeconomic status. I can go on and on and on. LGBTQ youth and teenagers already were facing increased levels of mental health issues before the pandemic. This showed that they had even more anxiety throughout 2020 and the beginning of 2021 than they did before the pandemic even started. The top main concerns for this group seem to be discrimination, personal struggles, and their sexuality, and also romantic relationships. Some people were in a relationship or getting to know someone, and then quarantine hit, and then you're in close quarters with someone, and then you really get to know them, right? Well, we're gonna learn all about this and what we can do, how we can help the LGBTQ youth. Maybe you've got an LGBTQ youth in your family that you might not know how to talk to, and I have a feeling that our guest, Miss Yasmin, is definitely gonna help us with that. So help me welcome Miss Yasmin! Woo!
Hi!
Hi, Yas. How are you, my love?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on the show. So I'm going to do the real quick bio because I want people to know all about you, all right? So Yasmin uses she, her pronouns, and she's a Latinx, Middle Eastern, bisexual, Central Florida leader in mental health and LGBTQ plus advocacy. Yasmin worked with the mental health response team for Orlando's Pulse tragedy, directing a counseling program for those affected directly or indirectly. She also had created an advocacy initiatives to destigmatize mental health in LGBTQ+, Latinx, and Black communities. Yasmin is a founding member of Orlando Trans Collective and has sat on the board of directors for Peer Support Coalition of Florida, Youth Move National, Central Florida Cares Health System, and the One Orlando Alliance. Coño, mi amor, how do you have time to even be sitting with us if you've been a part of so much?
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. While I am busy, I'm always happy to start conversations about mental health. I think it's one of the best ways we can destigmatize it.
Girl, seriously, for real. First of all, thank you for saying yes. And, tell us, we already know that you make this gay world a better place, but tell us what you do over at Peer Support Coalition.
Yeah, so at Peer Support Space, we help make communities where people can meet others that have shared lived experience with them. We build peer recovery communities, and we focus on communities that historically fall through the cracks of our mental health system. So not just LGBTQ plus communities, but autistic adults, disabled individuals, healing professionals. But in the LGBTQ plus community, we really focus on underserved communities within the LGBTQ plus community. So LGBTQ plus people of marginalized genders, LGBTQ plus Asians, the Black LGBTQ plus community, the genderqueer community. A lot of times you go to an LGBTQ plus event and you don't really see people that look like you, talk like you, understand, your culture and your background. So we think it's really important to connect people with others that have shared lived experience. So whatever they're navigating, they don't have to navigate it alone.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And for all you folks out there that think that you're alone in any of this, my God, that's one of the crazy ways that your brain tries to tell you that you're limited, that you can't, that you just can't go on, or that you can't handle the pressures of life. There is help for everyone out there. You just have to go seek it. So Jazz, you were a part of the initiative over at Pulse. So Pulse was such a pivotal event in the gay community. I don't think that we will ever forget the folks who lost their lives there in Orlando. I personally have a friend who lost someone at Pulse. His name was Top Hat Eddie Sotomayor, and I know that years later he still struggles with the fact that he lost his friend. I know that you were there helping out. How did this partnership come to pass, and what were you doing over there?
Yeah, so I was working at the Mental Health Association of Central Florida when the Pulse tragedy hit. And I was an LGBTQ plus Latinx individual working there, and they started a program, Orlando United Counseling, that was initially founded by Dandelion Hill, who's now the co-founder of Peer Support Space. And then I ended up taking over the program a few months later. But what I did was try to connect people that were affected directly or indirectly with counselors. And I noticed that it was really hard to find counselors that weren't just equipped to work with the LGBTQ plus community, but with individuals living at the intersection of being Latinx and LGBTQ plus, or Black and LGBTQ plus. Unfortunately, most therapists don't have a lot of experience working with intersecting identities. And what I found was, even when I was able to find therapists, there was a lot of history of distrust within those communities of using traditional mental health services. So people really started to turn to one another, which informally is peer services. And that's also why I began mental health advocacy campaigns specifically for the Black and the Latinx community, because it's not enough to have mental health advocates. I need people that look like me and talk like me, because there's a lot of mental health stigma that keeps people from seeking help. But there's also a lot of systemic issues that keep people from accessing help that, provides cultural humility and meets the unique needs of intersecting identities. So I did that work for a few years after the Pulse tragedy. And, you're so right. It affected, people here in Miami also. I know I took a trip to Kentucky and people were just crying about it. It hits home because for a lot of us, going to the club or the bar, that's our safe space. That's where we get away. That's where we can finally be ourselves. So to imagine something so tragic hitting our safe space, it hits regardless of where you live, if it was directly or indirectly. And trauma has no timeline, and sometimes it hits you years later, and it can take a long time. It's an ongoing nonlinear process, healing from trauma, and it physically changes your brain. So it's as real as physical health is. It's your brain is affected the same way you could break an arm or whatever it may be. So, it's an ongoing healing process, not just here in Orlando, but I think for LGBTQ plus individuals all over, especially LGBTQ plus individuals of color.
Definitely. And you touched on something that really hit a nerve. It's that trauma. That trauma has no color. It really is blind. It can get you, like you said, a year later, a couple of days later, we go through such heavy things in our community. Well, just all around, especially the last couple of years. Jazz, you're very open with your mental wellness and your mental wellness journey. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my initial mental health journey was really advocating for somebody near me. I didn't really realize growing up that a lot of the things I was experiencing was trauma, because it was just life to me. That was just, my experiences. It wasn't until I was older and really experienced back-to-back trauma that really finally made me break down and have my own mental health crisis. But I'm a survivor of sexual trauma, of domestic violence, of suicidal thoughts. Today I live with CPTSD and dissociative disorder, and it's ups and downs. Like I think I used to share my recovery story in a way where it was like, and now there's this pretty little bow and I'm all good. And I started this org and it's, so cute. But like, candidly, I was crying like 30 minutes ago and someone asked why. And I was like, I don't know. And, that just like is what it is. It's an ongoing journey. But what's really awesome about peer support space and then just being vocal about my story, and that's a personal decision. I don't think anybody owes anybody their story, but I've been able to connect with a lot of other people that have similar stories. And it's really been life-saving for me, because the hardest part, worse than the flashbacks, worse than the, insomnia, worse than the constant anxiety, was just this overwhelming feeling of being alone, that I was the only person, kind of going through this. And I just felt so lonely. But today, I think the difference in my recovery versus, what I consider my breakdown is that I'm not alone in it. And I, have a community of people that, have similar experiences to mine that I can lean on for support, and I don't have to navigate what I'm navigating alone.
No, never. And anyone watching this program, you're not alone. Just like Jasmine said, it's just one of those things where you think, your brain wants you to think that you're alone, and that's so not the case. And like you said, we're going to have days that we don't feel good. We're going to have days that we feel fat, right, Jazz? We're just not having a good day, and that's okay. It's not always rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We all have bad days, and, mental illness aside, we all have mental health, and, things like grief, trauma, those aren't mental illnesses, but they affect people, and it really affects the way you navigate your day-to-day life. So that's why at Peer Support Space, instead of just saying, we help those with mental illness, we help those navigating obstacles to mental wellness. And that could be so many different things for different people, but whatever people are going through, I think everyone has really unique experiences, but there's kind of this common humanity in that you're not alone in going through something. But since we're taught not to talk about mental health, none of us have a sticky note that's like, I'm a survivor of this. So you don't realize how many people you come in contact with on the daily that do have shared lived experience with you, because we're taught not to talk about it. So I think it's really important to intentionally create spaces where we're not just saying, how are you, but how are you really? And, we're asking people how they want to be supported instead of assuming how they want to be supported. And just being kind to one another, because you never know what kind of day somebody's having. And one of the most important moments of my life was when somebody paid for the Taco Bell drive-thru in front of me. I was having an extremely low day, and it just restored my faith in humanity. So you just really never know what somebody's going through. So it's important to just lead with kindness.
Well, and that's why I tell, all my friends that, like, hey, if you're having a bad day, try to put it aside and go pay somebody a compliment. Go tell somebody, help somebody with a door. Do something kind for somebody else. Like you said, you never know what their day was like, and that could completely change the whole trajectory of someone's day just because you were kind to them and it costed you nothing.
Absolutely. I think that we get so caught up in what to say and saying the right thing, but I am a believer that people remember how you make them feel more than what you say. So sometimes just starting that conversation and holding space for somebody, or just, throwing out compliments because they cost nothing, it can make it can save a life, honestly.
It could save a life, yes. I mean, I would love to sit in front of you and say that I have never thought about ending my life. I am in recovery. I am 7 years sober, and I had awful thoughts. And the main thought was, if I die, who would take care of my dog? I heard your dog in the background, and it's crazy how powerful our minds can be. Jazz, let me ask you, what have you encountered, the differences in what you have encountered with mental health and LGBTQ youth before pandemic as opposed to now? Because I will not say we're past pandemic, because we're still not over it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always being queer is absolutely incredible, but it can be really difficult also. But I think the pandemic brought new challenges in that a lot of us were trapped in our homes that weren't necessarily affirming environments, and we weren't able to have access to a lot of what was our safe spaces, which has really, taken a toll on people. The LGBTQ plus community really deeply understands why chosen family is important, because sometimes our biological families, like, even if they support us as people, they just kind of like ignore the fact that we're gay, or just like don't fully get it. Like, they say these microaggressions and like it's just off. So being trapped in your home and not being able to connect with your community and your friends, it's been really, really hard, I think, for a lot of LGBTQ plus youth. But I've also seen silver linings, in taking our services virtual. We've had a lot of people that are able to join LGBTQ plus spaces without coming out. They can put a different name, they can have their camera off, and, they're able to kind of tiptoe into the LGBTQ plus community without having to physically get to a space. And sometimes when you're young, you might not have transportation to a space, you might not have funding for to be able to access a space. So I really think that, there's been pros and cons, and it looks different for different individuals. But yeah, it's been a hard time for a lot of folks too. It's okay if there's not like a silver lining to what your pandemic experience was. I think there's this pressure to like, I sat there and thought, and now I started a business, and I'm really, I picked up all these hobbies. Like, it's okay if you just existed and are continuing to exist and push through. That's totally awesome.
Yeah, no, completely. So, for all those parents that maybe are not in the loop and don't, help their children get to that next step of their LGBTQ journey, there are parents that are supportive, and they want to be there for their LGBTQ youth. And sometimes, the youth and the parent can't seem to get along, and all these things kind of happen because they're kind of speaking different languages almost. This is what I hear from friends of mine, that have LGBTQ youth as children. Jasmine, is there anything that a parent can look for in their child's just change or mood swings, or just a different kind of a character essence that would give the parent a red flag that something's going on?
I am a peer. I'm a person with lived experience, so I don't really pathologize people or like analyze them in that way. But what I will say is, if somebody is drastically different than they were before and are acting drastically different, asking them how they're doing, but not asking in a way of like, you're not unwell, are you? But, like, how can I support you? Or I know I've been going through a hard time, like, how have you been doing? Like, just making sure however you're approaching them is in a way that feels welcoming. And sometimes just dropping resources like, hey, I found all of these resources. I wrote them down. I'm just going to slide them over to you if you have any interest. But I think a big thing that adults can do is just like get our pronouns right. I know the language is hard, but self-educating yourself, it means a lot to us,
Google.
Google
Everything comes up on Google.
And, just giving love, like the difference of having one supportive adult in your life as an LGBTQ plus person, whether it is your biological parents or not, makes a world of a difference. So just let people know that you care about them, you accept them as you are, do the work of educating yourself on the language, get their pronouns right, get their names right. Like, I know can be hard for you, but I promise you, like, it's taking a bigger toll on the individual getting misgendered than it is hard to learn.
Yeah, and people don't seem to understand that sometimes. Like, we're here to educate. We want you to learn our lingo. We want you to learn how our community thrives, Ask the questions. Ask the hard questions. So, Jazz, did you ever tell anybody, like, in one of your groups to, like, maybe stop watching the news or, like, stop getting on social media? I just remember during quarantine that it was such a high stressful time. There was so much going on with the political climate and Trump and the racial climate. Like, there was just so much going on. It was like an overdose, no pun intended, of just horrific stuff going on.
I'm definitely guilty of what I call doom scrolling, of just like going on social media and just like scrolling when I know this is no longer good for me. But I think there's balance. Like, if you notice it's not like, set some boundaries around it. So, like, one small thing that I've been doing now is when I wake up, I used to scroll my phone for 2 hours. That was the start of every single day. Like, I don't even want to admit that, but now I have to drink a cup of water. I have to water my plants and I have to feed and give my dog water. And then I can look at my phone, So, like, even if it's like baby steps towards cutting social media or whatever it may be out of your life in increments, that's something that has helped me. But yeah, it was a tough year, not just because of the pandemic. There, was a lot going on. I mean, none of it is that new. A lot of it has existed for a long time. It's just kind of coming to the surface. And I think some people are showing their true colors a little bit. But I think it's important to set boundaries, even when it's something like I need to engage because this is my advocacy and I heal through helping. Unless we're taking care of ourselves, it's hard for us to advocate to the best capacity that we can, So sometimes it feels selfish to take care of ourselves. But when I get that way, I just kind of mentally remind myself, okay, I'm going to take care of myself so I can take care of others. And like, I'm willing to take care of myself if it's for others, but not for me, which I should probably work on, right? But at least I'm taking care of myself now, right?
Yes, of course. And they always tell you on an airplane, if you're traveling with someone, put on your mask first. You can't help them unless you're breathing.
Exactly.
It doesn't work that way. Okay, I've got, I'm not around a lot of young people. So I've got to ask you this, like during the elections, even before the elections, it was like waking up and every single day it was like, no way, Trump didn't say that crap. Let me find out for sure. The roller coaster ride that the adults were that the 40 plus people were on was awful. Did the LGBTQ plus youth, did they feel the same way about Trump as our president?
I can't speak globally for any community, but I'm gonna go and say that most LGBTQ plus people don't support leaders that don't support them. And I'll leave it at that. But it is very hard. I think young people are very engaged and are not to be underestimated. I think a lot of times, we get called like snowflakes or, we're too dramatic. But I think that young people have very real reasons for being upset. Like we see, or a lot of us see, a lot of the things that are wrong with the world. And we were handed this and like, it's just kind of crap. Like, why do we have to figure out how to solve all these issues that the generations ahead of us kind of caused? And I think young people kind of have like a stigma for being angry or overreacting, but I think it's really reasonable, the things that a lot of people are upset with. And, I say that while being willing to call people in, but I understand when people are sick and tired of calling people in and are ready to just call people out because they've been trying to call people in for a minute now. So yeah, it's really, I think it has affected young people. I think young people are paying attention to what's going on in the world. But I also think there's, nuances within every community, and some young people might not care, not pay attention. And honestly, they probably have a lot less stress than I do. So I don't blame them.
Well, here's the thing. We should never forget about history. The reason that you and I get to marry whoever we want to marry is because folks back in the 60s, when you and I were not on this earth, they had to do things to make sure that we got our rights. So we can never forget what the past generations did. I personally believe you guys are on your phone too damn much, and you believe in instant gratification, because you've gotten it your whole life. But I also believe that your passion for gun control is going to revolutionize how this country is in the next century. I believe that your love and your passion for each other is so fluid that, it will surpass anything that we have been able to do. For sure. Jazz, what do you tell someone young that's watching this show right now and believes with every fiber of their soul that they're alone and that nobody else is going through what they're going through?
I would like to tell that person that, I don't know you, but I genuinely love you and I care about you. And I know that, I'm just a stranger and you don't know me, but there's other people that share the same kindness that are going to accept you for all that you are. And there's nothing wrong with anything that you are. And, just keep fighting. If you need to take it day by day, or you need to just take it moment by moment, okay, I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk and take it from there. I think it's important to just keep fighting, whatever that looks like for you. And if the thing, keeping you going or keeping you alive is a pet, or that you're excited for a new episode to come out of some TV show, like that's a reason good enough. And even if you're struggling, giving yourself love, you're still deserving of love from others. So yeah, I have a lot of love for people that know what it's like to feel really alone, because I've definitely been in that place for a really long time. And, I don't want to say like think positively or go for a walk. Like I just want to validate that it can really suck. And I'm sorry if you feel that way. I'm really sorry that you're going through that right now. And I genuinely hope that it gets better for you.
Oh, I love that. And I love you, Jasmine. Keep on being the incredible human being that you are. You are just wonderful. Do you want to tell us about any future events that will be happening at Peer Support Coalition?
Sure. So Peer Support Space, we have, it's not an event coming up, but it's an ongoing thing. We have virtual daily communal gatherings. They're totally free. They happen at 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. Monday to Saturday. And we basically are a community of people checking in on one another. So if you feel like you need more friends, you need to build your support system, they are free to join. Just go to the website, peersupportspace.org. There's a big download our resources button on the homepage, and you're more than welcome to join our community. No pressure to share. It's okay if you have your camera off, bring a blanket, bring some snacks, whatever meets your needs. But yeah, just welcoming anybody to our chosen family and to all of our ongoing events.
Thank you so much, Jazz. Thank you for being with us today. You are an incredible human being, like I said, and I'm going to steal you, and you're going to be on this show when you're down in South Florida next time, okay?
That sounds good. We are hoping to expand in person to South Florida in the future, so I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye. So make sure that you follow Jazz on all her social media platforms, and make sure that you go over to Peer Support Coalition as well. What they're doing is fantastic for our youth and something that's so needed. As someone in recovery, I know that I could not get through certain days without talking to someone else. It was so important for me to know that I was not the only one. We're very dramatic in the queer community. If you were like me, you would be drinking and drugging too. It's not that way. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to deal with this by yourself, And here's the bigger, I'm going to pop your balloon. Anything you've been through, one of us has been through it. Take that in. Oh yeah, because I just remember going, who's going to want to hear my horrible, dark things? And every time I told, a certain, a safe person, they were always like, yep, I did that ×5. So just remember that. All right, so next up is our fun segment. And this week it's Lesbian Lingo. Lesbian Lingo, Lesbian Lingo, Lesbian Lingo. Okay, I don't have a song for it, so I have to make it up, okay? Lesbian Lingo, right here at the FayWhat Show. Lesbian Lingo. Okay, all right, we're done. All right. Number 1 on the lesbian lingo, so you could be in the know. So when your lesbian friend is talking to you, you know what they're talking about, right? Okay, this one's kind of like an easy one. Number 1 is lipstick lesbian, all right? So a lipstick lesbian is a lesbian who exhibits a greater amount of feminine gender attributes, such as wearing makeup or dresses or skirts or having other characteristics associated with a real feminine woman. So I guess that's me. I guess I am a lipstick. I never thought about that. I'm a lipstick lesbian. Look at me. I'm going to do a new hashtag. FayWhat lipstick lesbian. Love it. All right. Number 2. I thought this is what I was. I thought I was a soft butch. Soft butch is our second term. So a soft butch or a STEM is a lesbian who exhibits some stereotypical butch traits without fitting the masculine stereotype associated with butch lesbians. Okay, so I don't know, like I know a couple of soft butches, so they might like makeup every once in a while. They might like to wear a dress sometimes, but it's not like predominantly all the time. So it's however they're feeling, and that's fine, exactly how it is. All right, number 3. Clitorference. Okay, when someone gets in the way of you flirting, making out, or having sex with a girl you're interested in. All right, so she basically interfered on, the word, right? So it's kind of like C blocking for the guys. Okay, clitorference. That doesn't even roll off your tongue, and like in the lesbian world, we have to really let it roll off your tongue. Clitorference. David, say it again. Clitorference. You don't know anything about clitorference, David. You're a gay boy. All right, number 4. Chapstick lesbian. Now, this is something I had never heard about. So a chapstick lesbian is the kind of wash and go dyke, the one who wears the same jeans and a white tee every day and occasionally change their jacket from denim to leather depending on the season, but they're super cute. You know who I'm talking about. You know someone, right? Chapstick lesbian, that's you. I know, I knew it. Number 5 is a gold star. A gold star, if you don't know, is a gay person who has never had sex with the opposite sex. Okay, so I am not a gold star. There was 4 months back in my early 30s that I kind of don't remember, and I swear there was some boys involved somewhere. But then I woke up and it was over. But it still happened, so I'm not a gold star. All right, number 6, a dicon. Any celebrity or cultural icon, almost always a woman, who is popular among lesbians and considered a gay icon. I love that. I want to be that one day, right? Okay, and I will be it. Number 7, baby dyke. Okay, when you're newly out of the closet and don't even know what your rising sign is yet, you are what we in the lesbian biz call a baby dyke or a diaper dyke also, all right? So little baby dykes, we love you. Welcome to the party, girl. Number 8, cishet. So a cishet is short for a cisgender heterosexual, and that refers to people who are both cisgender and heterosexual. There, so now, don't you feel smarter? Your IQ has gone up just from watching the FayWhat show. That's how we roll here. So you have an idea or a story that you'd like to share? We want to hear all about it. Cuéntanos. It might be featured in one of our upcoming segments on the FayWhat show. Send them our way to our Instagram page at FayWhat YouTube or email us at info@faywhat.com. So what an amazing show today. It was just a great show. I have to thank our guest, Miss Yasmin Flasterstein. What a beautiful, beautiful human being. She's part of Peer Support Coalition of Florida. Make sure that you go on Facebook and like them. Tell them that you saw them on the FayWhat show. Support them. If you know an LGBTQ youth that you want to send their way, please do so. These organizations are just wonderful. And remember that they also help adults as well. Mental health is nothing to play with. I also want to thank those behind the scenes. We can't do what we do without them. To my producer director, Luis Flores, our assistant director and project manager, David Fernandez. This journey with you guys has been magical. Thank you for always teaching me so much and giving me even more. And thank you for being part of my chosen family. I love you guys. All of you for letting us do our thing each and every week. Please join us next week for another great show. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and like us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So the past year has been incredibly difficult for so many of us. COVID, quarantine, overdoses have gone up, suicides up, trans violence up, racial injustices up. We went through a lot. We've gone through a lot. We've got each other, and we must help each other. Being depressed is a real thing. Never let somebody minimize that. Your feelings are valid. Don't think any less of someone that seeks therapy or help to maintain their mental well-being. It takes a very strong person to admit that they need help. That 4-letter word can be so hard to say, and I say that from my own experience. So mental health is no joke. Take it seriously for those around you as well. Yo soy FayWhat. Thank you for allowing me to be me every single week. I love you guys. I'm sending you love, peace, and happiness to all of you. Lo quiero. Stay gay.